Hey, this is Gavin Palmer with Hero LFG LLC, and this is a deconstruction of General Griswold Grimm from my perspective. So notice that word general and Griswold Grimm. Griswold Grimm is not his, as he might say, legal fiction. It's not his government name. And so immediately we have something like an exposed secret, a willingness to keep a fog about you. So, Griswold Grimm is a mystery intentionally. So, and so when he calls himself general, he's not actually being a general to some degree, right? Or at least we can be skeptical about whether he is trying to be a general, because we don't know how much is a LARP. We don't know how much is not a LARP, and we don't even know, if you LARP for long enough, does it become reality, right? So it's a mystery intentionally. So what I like to believe is that General Griswold Grimm is trying to be a decoy, and what that means is he will pay attention to people who are who look like they are Christ-like, right? So among people in the world, there are those who appear to be more or less Christ-like, which is hard to do, if you're just paying attention on the internet, right? How many people who are Christ-like are on the internet, in the cloud, kind of thing? Like, what would they be doing in the cloud? So that's hard right off the bat, but let's say that's the aim, and I like to think that this might be the aim, and it seems like a good aim, that I try to identify people who are Christ-like and try to learn from them and try to be the one who attracts attention, such that, here's the question, such that General Griswold Grimm becomes a decoy who receives more attention than the Christ-like figures. So is that how it would work out? So if Christ came in the clouds, on the internet, and on YouTube and social media, would Christ be popular? And I would say no, right? Because it's similar to when Jordan Peterson asked the question as, could I be a Nazi soldier? You could similarly ask the question, could I be the one who put Jesus up on a cross and killed him? And the question, and I think the answer is yes. Most people, significantly, overwhelmingly, most people would find a Christ-like figure to be unattractive. And so Griswold Grimm has to pay attention to characters on the internet who don't receive a lot of attention, but appear to be doing good work and speaking words of wisdom and producing good fruit, right? So keep an eye out for that. If you're General Griswold Grimm, I imagine that's what you're doing, and you also don't want to. You actually want to have more subscribers than the Christ-like figures. That way, you can serve as a decoy, and when those who are possessed by unholy spirits detect the threat and do their threat detection, they will target General Griswold Grimm first as the decoy, which would be an indicator. So that's kind of the way I see the LARP. That's the way I hope the LARP is going, and that's kind of a recommendation as well, is that the general is keeping an eye out for Christ-like figures. Maybe the army, the lobster monkeys, can help keep an eye out for Christ-like figures, and we probably want to suppress the popularity of the Christ-like figures while learning from them and encouraging them, such that we can have decoys for the Christ-like figures, so that the decoys start getting attacked before the Christ-like figures get attacked. And that brings me to paintball for Jesus, right? So this allows us to prepare. We can prepare our minds anytime we embody anything, right? We can go out and grow some pear trees and some fruit and learn. When we garden and we fail, we can do the same. We can go out and fish. General Grizwald, the LARPer, is fishing in virtual worlds, but if he did it in the real world, he would face a lot more difficulty and discomfort and expenditures and costs, and there would be a lot more learning that goes on. So that's what happens anytime you embody anything. So instead of playing war games on the internet, you could play war games in the real world and properly prepare yourself for defending Christ-like figures who will disrupt the entire world. That's paintball for Jesus. One cool thing about paintball is that there's a question about what could be inside of the paintball, and I could imagine that there could be kind of lethal and non-lethal substances within paintball. So I think that an army for Christ would be interested in less than lethal weapons, and even the process for innovating new less than lethal weapons. So that's the PBFJ piece. Conspiracy theory. This is related to mind control and savings throws. The savings throws are a reminder that we are swimming in mind control. The fact that you might feel a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of stress at being labeled a conspiracy theorist is an indicator of the unholy spirits inserting programs into the thing we swim in. You might call it the culture. And so that's actually an indicator. If you learn how to identify spirits and express the Holy Spirit by recognizing the fruit of the Holy Spirit, patience, gentleness, self-control, humility, these kinds of things, what will happen is that as you act in the world with the Holy Spirit, you will identify moments where there is some kind of discomfort or stress, and you can seek out the source of that, and you may find it embedded within the language itself. And so, conspiracy theorist, it actually is, the phrase itself is evidence for the conspiracy among the unholy spirits. It runs so deep that it has impacted our language. And so the savings throws are a reminder that we are always swimming in it. I hope it reminds you that attention is the most valuable resource in the world, and be careful what we feed. We could be feeding on the disembodied unholy spirits of everything in the clouds, or we could be feeding on the disembodied Holy Spirits in the clouds, maybe even Christ-like spirits. So, yeah, be careful what you feed. If you are a true sage, you may be able to identify the spirits and then reflect it. Well, that's not what a sage does. If you reflect it, you're actually just doing an eye for an eye and fighting fire with fire. It doesn't work. You actually have to love your enemy and figure out how to. A sage would need to figure out how to be able to confront unholy spirits in ways that are beneficial and produce good fruit. Not an easy task. First step, be able to identify spirits. Second step, be able to identify them within yourself and make sure you're not doing it. So that's related to Beholder Project. Because attention is the most valuable resource in the world, the Beholder Project is a way for us to essentially distribute our cognition. And so I distribute cognition to the Friday Morning Nameless YouTube channel. With regard to this little corner, I have been distributing some cognition to some rock climbers and some chess players and some people, some survivalists and some fishermen. And when I go online, I distribute cognition to people who are doing things that I'm interested in. I also distribute my cognition to my wife, who's with the children. I distribute cognition to robots on the internet who are monitoring for problems. I just checked that my robots have not reported any problems to me. And so we distribute our cognition, and I would say that's related to the Beholder Project. Basically, these beholders are related to goals and aims or interests. And it's good if we can build good beholders that are beneficial and produce the best fruit. And so, whether you're interested in plumbing, and I'm thinking of Michael Sartori, and cabinetry, or software engineering, or chess, no matter what you're interested in, it would be good to distribute cognition properly. I would recommend being interested in the good, and I would also recommend being interested in things like identifying Christ-like figures who might attempt to create the kingdom of heaven and peace on earth. These are things to consider as well while we attempt to serve, and we want to make sure we aren't serving those who are possessed by unholy spirits. Let's try to serve those possessed by holy spirits. And I'm sharing things I've learned from experience, so it's all related to mistakes I've made in the past. Remember, embody, there is no agency. We want what's best for you. Remember, embody, that phrase, it brings to mind the Gandhi quote, be the change you want to see. There is no agency reminds me of a conversation I had with Grizwald about imagining an agency, whether it was celestial with God and angels, or is it aliens, or is it the CIA? And I'm hoping for an agency that's looking for good people who will try to train and help good people and allow them to network together to do good work. And I realized that maybe the CIA is not interested in that, for example. And so that's what the phrase, there is no agency, reminds me of. And there was a phrase at one point, welcome to the agency. So the idea is that we could actually be the agency, which is attempting to be the change we want to see, to remember, embody, to identify, for example, Christ-like figures and serve and protect them as decoys and people who play paintball for Jesus, and build beholders that are related to the good. So good stuff. We want what's best for you reminds me of my definition of friend and neighbor. So your friends and your neighbors are those who want what's best for you, and we should love them differently than the way we love our enemies. And those are people who have conflicts of interest, right? If we are aiming at the good and trying to get better at aiming at the good, we can love our enemy in order to understand what they are aiming at. And sometimes our enemy is not being very honest. Maybe it's self-deception or intentional deception. And we can, by attempting to cooperate with them, we can then discover if there is a deception going on, and so there can be a conflict of interest. And we may never know if it's intentional or unintentional deception, but we can know that they are the enemy. And the only way we learn if they are the enemy, and I say they, I should say we, sometimes we are our own enemy, but the only way we do that is by trying to understand, trying to listen, and trying to compare the stated goal with the behaviors in relationship to the stated goal, and whether or not the behaviors are productive or counterproductive. We can do that for ourselves. We can do that for others. Practice with ourselves, because we are all, or at least have been, plagued by self-deception. This is the way, as it has been said. What is the dead wood? What is the snitch? What is the set? So basically, the dead wood. I like to think about the growing fruit trees. And so when we grow fruit trees, a fruit tree can have disease, it can have rot, it can have these things which we might need to remove. There is pruning, and it's all with the goal of producing the most good fruit possible, or producing the good. And so we can do that. And when we do that, and I'm hoping that when we embody that, as I grow fruit trees and get better at growing fruit trees, I will also be better at producing good fruit within other areas, like my own life, as a husband and a father and a software engineer, and whatever other role I end up playing in life. The snitch is the most important thing. It's related to Harry Potter and the game of Quidditch. And so in that game, the way you win that game is you identify the snitch. Now the snitch can be the most important thing. It can be the thing that's most valuable, and it could be the Christ-like figure, the friend who wants what's best for you, the neighbor who wants what's best for you, but it could also be the enemy who is shaping the language and the culture in order to control your mind. So the snitch, we need to be aware of those snitches, the good and the bad. We have to learn to love, and get better at loving and do that transformation that's related to producing good fruit, aka deadwood, removing the deadwood in our own lives and within our communities, and practicing it by embodying it. And even embodying PBFJ, Paintball for Jesus, can help us remove the deadwood and identify snitches, right? It's going to happen. You're out there on the field playing Paintball for Jesus. There's going to be the one who is the best, and you might want to sacrifice yourself and be a decoy for the one who is the best. And there may be the one who is the best for the opposing team, and perhaps there is a way to treat that one such that we win the game and create the kingdom of heaven on earth. And so what is set? Set is the culture. That's what we're swimming in. All of that mind control that we're swimming in, the thing we need our savings throws for. Set. Set is the thing that prevents us from having peace on earth, but it also is the thing which has allowed us to experience the blessings we have already. So we don't want to just get rid of the culture, but we do want to get better at recognizing heroes and Christ-like figures and being of service and attempting to become those heroes and those Christ-like figures if possible, such that we can go into the unknown and extract that which is valuable, identify the snitches in the unknown, extract what is most valuable, get the gold, go into the dragon's lair, all of that, bring it back, transform the culture, right? We don't want to just join the side who wants to destroy the culture. No, we want to have an answer, and there is a way, and it has something to do with grassroots organizations and becoming the change you wish to see. And so there's plenty of opportunity to participate. Head on over to Grizwald YouTube channel and the Discord that he has, the Broken Clock Tower. I will share a link in the description below in transmission.